Welcome to a special Jets Afterburners and Lions Danivores Veterans podcast show dedicated to honoring the brave men and women who have served in the United States military. We bring you personal stories from veterans across all branches, sharing their experiences, sacrifices, and the wisdom they've gained along the way. Whether they served in times of peace or conflict, their stories remind us of courage, resilience, and the enduring spirit of service. Thank you for joining us on this journey of reflection and gratitude. Liam, buenas noches, muchacho.
Hello, my friend. Can't wait for this. This is always one of my favorite pods of the year, something I look forward to every year. I really like the time of year that we do it too, right in the middle of March, where
Yep.
it's easy to think about the brave men and women on Memorial Day and on the 4th of July and on President's Day, on specific holidays. I really like the fact that we bring this to you on a random Thursday in March every year. There's some because, like I said, it's easy to think about these men and women that have sacrificed all, that have made the ultimate sacrifice at certain times on specific holidays. But when you could do this just on a random Thursday, it reminds you of these people, these soldiers, they're going through it every single day, whether it's a holiday or not. So this is always one of my favorite pods of the year. Can't wait to get into it. I know we have some wonderful guests coming up in just a few.
Without a doubt, man. Same with me. I have very good friends
Hmm.
in the service, especially one guy that's in the back there waiting for his turn. We've been friends since high school, and we've always been tight knit. And he always shares amazing stories. And one of the big reasons why I started this alongside with you, Liam, is because um, a good friend of mine who I've known for a very long time. His name was Kyle Luciano, and that's why I always do this as a remembrance.
Hmm.
Um, you know, one of the top-notch players of life, smart, intelligent beyond words, but because of certain things with mental health, there was certain actions that he took, and I want to give back. I want to
Yeah,
give back, just like you do, Liam, just us civilians, just to say thank you to the men and women that continue to serve. So, with that being said, we're going to bring on these amazing individuals. First off, Ryan, my man, what's up, brother?
What's going on?
Same old goodness. He's a big part of this here, Ryan Graham, and he is the main glue here. So we thank you with that. And Ron, welcome to the show, brother.
How's it going?
Better now that you're here, man.
absolutely.
And then with that, Nate, my man of the year, always bringing that fire.
Just some technical difficulties on my side, man.
Hey, I get it.
Yeah,
Good to see you guys.
100%. Now with that, we also bring on Livy. This is our first time on the show.
Welcome aboard, Livy. Looks like she's muted.
Uh-oh. Livy.
Here I am.
All right.
I hear my grandbaby in the background. That's why I was muted for a little bit.
That's fantastic. Now, thank you all for hopping on here, and I can't express the gratitude that we have for everything that you guys have done and continue to do so. So, from our hearts to yours, we thank you.
Absolutely.
Now, Livy and Ron are the newbies here, right? We haven't, asked you some questions.
Haven't broken them in yet.
No, Livy, always ladies first. I have a question for you. What inspired you to join the military? There might be a lag.
I get it. If anybody gets it, it's me.
Let's see. Livy, can you hear us? Uh-oh. No?
Oh,
No?
maybe she's just still thinking about it.
Okay, that's not a problem. Let's pivot. Ron, what inspired you to join the military?
9/11. Being a New
Oh.
Yorker, I was 14 at the time. Angry kid. So joined the Marine Corps to, get retribution back for 9/11.
Now, can you describe your first day in service?
My first day in service, like boot camp, or my first day in my first unit?
Both.
Oh man, uh, boot camp was kind of a shell shock. I can't speak for any other branches, but the Marines, we're known for certain things, and decency and niceties are not one of them. I went to Paris Island, being a New Yorker, so we got to Paris Island in South Carolina from New York, probably about 1 o'clock in the morning or so, dark, and Dylan starts yelling. I probably questioned every life decision I made at that point. So it was nerve wracking. About 3 days staying up, doing administrative paperwork, getting our first stuff, our gear, and everything. So it was stressful and a pretty good eye opener. And it was a good time. Don't regret it at all.
Wow. Nate, what was the most challenging part of your service?
Oh shoot, man, Dan, that's a loaded question.
It is loaded. You know I come loaded, man. You know it.
Start with the open ended. I like it. Shoot, I tell Ryan because we still chat. Gosh, almost daily. It's probably. Probably now. Like I'm 19 and a half years in. When you've been in as long as I have, you have different decision points and stuff. But now it's what keeps me here. What drives me. So I think those are the most difficult ones because you start going up some levels and stuff, and you look around, you're like, man, do I belong here? Am I as good as the people around me? Do I still put in the effort and the time to lead the people under me the way that I need to and the way that they deserve? Like those are the things that drive me now, and I think that's the toughest part is not what getting up and doing the day to day, but am I doing enough to give back to the people below me that deserve the best of me still?
Now, Nate, how have you seen the military change from when you first started to where you are now?
Man, that's like roller coaster times, So I came in, it's been gnarly, right? So people do ask, and a lot of it is, different administrations want to do stuff in different types of way, and neither of those are inherently good or bad, but it's just how different leaders want to lead. And of course, when you are in charge of the military, it affects the people that put the uniforms on. And, when I first came in, it was the end of 06, early 07. So we were still really in the war in the Middle East, and when I joined, I was just talking to some coworkers the other day, we're at a moment now, when I joined, regardless, I'm in the Air Force, but there was still the idea and the thought of, well, if I get the order, I'm still going to go to war, and up until a couple weeks ago, the junior people under me never had that thought. So one of the questions that I ask my peers now is when they go back to the units, how do you lead your airmen and NCOs now, your non-commissioned officers, the ones that are doing the work? How do you lead them and let them know, hey, when the order comes and we're called to go, you go, and it's a shift in culture and a shift in mindset. And we've just seen a few of it, because when I first joined, it was a bunch of us were still going to Afghanistan and Iraq and those supporting areas for a long time. And then, in 2012, 13, 14, it kind of really cooled down a little bit, and you'd still go, but it just wasn't the same. And then, after the withdrawal from Afghanistan, there were a couple of years where we didn't know. So the strategic environment changed, and we really talked more what our peer threats look like. And that's still, I think, the case, because they're still right there, and we're just moving in a different way now.
Now, just to ask one more question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just to kind of piggyback off of that real quick, how does the attitude change when times are a little bit more calm compared to hey, now we're getting ready to head over there now? Is that a big attitude change? Can you feel it in the room? You have to, right? I'd imagine.
Yeah, you feel it. You definitely feel it. And I think, for us, I'll say I'm 41. So us older folks, right? I mean, you don't get excited, but it definitely reinstills the purpose. You know, you don't have to describe your purpose anymore. Like it's on the news and it's on whatever social media that you want to go to. So tying that question to the why to the younger troops is I don't find it as difficult. And you know, it's right there, you know, and we've already lost more than a handful Air Force members, and it's when it's directly tied to your branch and what we do. And you know, our community, it's large, but it's also really small. So it gets real fast.
Right.
Well, Ryan, I wanted to pick your brain here because, you know, like I said before, we're childhood friends, and you know, we've been through the ups and downs of just normal civilian life. But when you made that conscious decision of just leaving everything behind and going this route of protecting the civilian, walk us through that.
What, starting with the decision to join and then the
Yeah,
reason?
because I think a lot of people need to hear this because, you know, whether some people are on the fence, young people, just to know, hey, look, you know, once you make this decision, you have to, number one, know why. I think the biggest one is the why. Why are you doing this? And to defend the country, the flag, that is the ultimate why. But if you walk us through that.
Well, before I hit the why, it's sort of weird because part of it was also what Ron said. The reason why I joined 9/11, Dan, me and you, we've known each other, so it's like we were in the same group when all this stuff was going on. Those midnight runs, hanging out in the car with Kyle. But I think, yeah, like I said, it was a combination of stuff. I think things just linked up. 9/11 happened, so that was one. And sort of tied to that was my sister, who was down there in 2001, and she was down there also in 93. So, yeah, there was a bit of patriotism there, and you kind of felt it flowing in the air, the patriotism. I remember it was like, yeah, that you had American flags flying all over, and I think the time before that where we had a lot of flags flying that much was during World War II, because Vietnam definitely was not a popular war. But also part of it too is, don't worry, Dan, you were one of the good ones. But then I saw, you know, some of the friend group start getting into heavier stuff, and just graduated high school, and then it was like, all right, what do I do? And then honestly, I didn't really leave anything behind. Dan, you know this. I think Nate, you already know it. So my wife always said, she said this to me recently, and I thought it was funny. She was like, "Oh, so how's it feel to be an orphan?" I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" So I think once my dad died when I was 17, obviously, Dan, you already know, my mom 10 years before him, I really had nothing left here. So it was like just a combination of like, I had a lot of uncertainty going on. I was couch surfing. So how I saw the military too was like 3 meals on the table. I had a roof over my head, and there was no uncertainty there. There was always simple rules to follow. And then I think, like I said, the combination of 9/11 happening and joining. Like I said, it's, you know, Ron has his own, Nate has his own, Livy, if she hops back on, she has her own reasons, but I think a lot of us, we tend to kind of join for similar reasons. Patriotism is always going to be there, but then I think honestly, and I've speaking to a lot of fellow veterans. Usually it's something. A lot of times, it's something that happens at home, and it's like, you know what, the military is sort of like an escape. So that's how I can see it. I could be wrong, but. Yeah, mine was my journey in was a little strange, and that's how I met Nate. It's funny because Nate's first base was my third base, my last one. So
It's really ironic that you say that, because I have a friend that was in the same boat. You know, he didn't have the greatest home life. Really just kind of got right by high school. Didn't really even, he graduated, but like, you know, by the skin of his teeth. So it does seem like that is like the common thing where there's like a lot of uncertainty. Now, I guess as like you're mentally preparing to get ready to go into this, is when you got there, is it what you expected it to be? Like, what was like maybe like I wasn't expecting this to happen, or anything like that?
Or you're asking me? Um,
I guess we could start with you. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think all of us have a funny story. There's always so I'll just say something funny. So I remember basic training for the Air Force is at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio. So I remember the first night getting in. It was like 3:00 in the morning. We're standing right outside. They have us at attention, and then all you see outside this building, the only light is like leading into this doorway, and we see it like after 5-10 minutes. You see the caps go on, those Smokey the Bear caps, and you know you're done. You're about to get smoked. But funny story, this is a little embarrassing for me, my first night, but they had us crammed into this day room, and we're sitting there, all Indian style, like 60 of us. And I'm sitting in the front row, right dead center, and this training instructor, this tech sergeant, he's saying, you have to do this, you have to do that. And then he said, first row, get up. You're going to walk out the door. As you walk out, you're going to grab a field jacket. I get up, and we were sitting there so long. It was like my whole right butt cheek, like my entire leg just went numb. Oh, no. I got up, and I could barely hold myself. And then the next thing that happened, just to make sure I stayed up, I grabbed the podium. The training instructor, the drill instructor, I saw the look in his face. It was like, oh yeah, I'm about to have fun. Meanwhile, just so you know what was going on, about 20 minutes earlier, there was another trainee sitting somewhere behind me. He must have been checking his watch. And of course, the training instructor throws out something. He was like, what do you have? Something you have a date or something? And every 5 minutes on the dot, he told his trainee, look at the clock, and you're going to stand up and sound like a cuckoo clock. And every 5 minutes, all this seriousness is going on. You hear this trainee behind us, and you just hear cuckoo, cuckoo. So honestly, I thought basic training was so, dude. Guys, if I was to send you pictures, Nate saw it. My lead training instructor, he looked exactly like Sergeant Slaughter.
Oh my God.
We had another training instructor. This guy was like Fire Marshal Bill from Enlevy. Imagine being with like almost 2 months of training, and you come across these guys and you're being yelled at, but the stuff coming out of their mouth. So that was pretty much the first night. And to me, it was comical. It was definitely one of, like, at that point, the hardest thing in my life I've ever done. Because I think Liam, sort of mentioned something earlier, like, hell, I never tried in high school. I basically bullshitted my way out of high school.
We all did.
That was me. I mean, there was no way I was going to college. I had no family. But yeah, no, that first night in, there was sort of that oh fuck kind of factor that Ron mentioned, that you're like, what the hell did I do? And then 6 years later, that's it. I got out and got fat.
Oh, get out of here, man. Stop. Ron.
Stud like Nathan.
Ron, so when you came back from boot camp, right? If I understand this correctly, you go boot camp, I think it's like, what is it, like 12 weeks or a little bit longer than that? And then you come back home to visit family, right? Is that normally how it is?
Yep. Typically you get about 2 weeks of leave before you get sent to your next place that you're going to.
When you came back, how different were you? Or were you the same person? Was there any change in character? Was there any change in mindset? Or were there any moments of doubt? And if there were, how did you overcome them?
I probably say I was a different person. I like to think I was the same, but I think all of us, no matter what branch you're in, we all come back from, recruit training different in some way, shape, or form. We never leave there the same person. I think for the Marine Corps especially, they kind of break you down as a person. We have the ongoing joke that Marines were all in a cult. We live and breathe the Marine Corps. We're always a Marine. So that as a boot Marine, we think we're Superman. So the second I got back to New York, you stand there with the chest puffed out, and everybody takes notice. But I think one of the first things I realized was leaving New York to go to boot camp was one of the first times I actually left New York City. So, you know, going back home, you realize how different places, traveling different places, make you see where you're at or where you come from differently. You know, I don't mean to rag on my own hometown, but New York City is a dirty place. It's a city.
Right.
You know, I never realized how dirty it actually was, you know, going from until I came back from Beaufort, South Carolina, where Paris Island is, back to Bronx, New York, and just trash is everywhere. And the brand new boot Marine in me was screaming every time somebody littered or did something like that. You know, I was pretty common at the time. But it took some adjusting to, you know, to get used to again. But I for sure came back differently. I wasn't the same, different mindset. You know, my mindset was, all right, I experienced this. There's nothing left for me here in New York City. I need to go back out.
Now, Ron, I could kind of, I could see that too, because I went down to Paris Island when one of my best friends graduated boot camp, and just being 18 at the time, 19, whatever we were, like there was always like certain jokes that we had. You know, we all crack jokes on each other, start laughing. And when he came out, this kid was not laughing at all. Like, I don't think I even saw him crack a smile. He smiled when he saw us and gave us a big hug. Oh, you know, I love you guys and everything. But did you notice like maybe like a personality shift in yourself too? Because like we noticed it with my friend. It did seem to come back like once he was in, because he went to Indian Head, Maryland after that for a while. And then he came home and like, you know, he was joking around a little bit more. But I remember like the first couple days that we saw him, he was very just serious. Did you notice like maybe something that within yourself too?
Oh, absolutely. They kind of, again, they break down your character for a very specific reason to build you back up as one Marine, right? And in order to do that, you have to lose your sense of some identity in some way, shape, or form. And then you're there for 3 months. You know, unlike Ryan, which I'm absolutely amazed that you had a watch to be able to tell time. In Marine Corps boot camp, there are no clocks. As recruits, we don't know the time. We don't know what we're doing, when we're doing it. We get told by our drill instructors, you know, when we can piss, excuse my language, but, you know, shit, piss, and eat, and don't do all that other stuff. So that's drilled in your head for 3 months. It only takes 2 weeks for a habit to form. You're there for 3 months. So, you know, that first few months after boot camp, that's still in your brain. I mean, you can Google videos or, you know, TikTok videos of, you know, recruits graduating boot camp. They become Marines. They go back home, and their Marine siblings or family members or friends are back home, and they just start messing with them. You know, it'd be like 7 o'clock in the evening. They took a nap all of a sudden, and their Marine buddies just turn on the lights and scream, "Light, lights, lights." And they just start popping up and, you know, screaming at the top of their lungs because it's so ingrained in you. So it takes time to get some of your old self back. But for sure, yeah, it's pretty inevitable. It happens.
Nate, I wanted to ask, you know, because you've been in the military for quite a while. This is going to be up to what, 20 years?
Yeah, I'll hit 20 in December.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank
guys.
you.
Dude, thank you for this, man. It's amazing what you do. My question is the going back and forth, right? Within these 20 years, how have you been transitioning? All right, I'm in the military now. I'm back home, back and forth and whatnot. Now, before you answer that, we have another veteran that we would like to bring on the stage, Lance. Yes.
Yes, sir.
All
How you
right,
doing,
welcome
man?
aboard, man.
It's nice to meet you.
So for
How you guys
those
doing?
for those that don't know, I also host another show. It's about, you know, mental health that diet can definitely help you with, and that's where my friend Lance, we finally get to meet. So
Yeah.
we're carnivores. So just giving you guys a heads up. That's all we eat, and that's all we give a shit about. So it's all right. Have at it.
Well, it's made a huge difference in my life, I tell you.
We're gonna tie this in just a second. Now, Nate, if you could, we're just going back to you on that one.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Dan. And it's something, you know, I was home last June for my brother's wedding, and my uncle asked me something kind of like that, because, you know, I gave a speech the night, whatever the dinner bit thing is, and I talked about, you know, my brothers and I I'd been gone for so long, and it was cool to be back and reestablish certain relationships and stuff. And he asked me what, he was like, I think I said something like along the lines of, when I leave and come back, I see the change that everybody's been making and the progress in their lives that they've been doing to become the new cool people that they're becoming. Right. I've seen people with, kids and overcoming addiction and this and that. But for me, to them, they still remember me from the time that I left. And so when I come back, like, sure, they see some pictures and stuff, but, they don't see how I've grown. They just see how, like you guys have mentioned, how the Air Force has changed me as a person and a man and what I've become. And they see some of the achievements, but they didn't get to take a part of it. And then I get to come back and be a part of the family again. And then I'm right back out to go do this other stuff.
Wow. Now, Lance, since you're late to the party, I'm joking.
Casually.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Now, what kind of life lessons, like when going in there and whatnot, and then coming back, do you have that you innately kind of give off to people? Because I've seen that a lot, where it's that discipline, it's that rigidness as well, where like I could spot a Marine from a mile away. Like you know that, wow, it's that presence when they walk into a room. You're like, whoa, there's something about that guy. They know it. Exactly right.
Well, a lot of what I've had, I guess, I don't know. It's just like when I'm going to work and stuff now, dealing with civilians and dealing what I do now. I just, like the job I work at now. When I started there 11 years ago, I was in the bottom position, and now I run my plant. So I take over wherever I go, and I learned that from the military. I walk in places with confidence. It's just what I do. And the plant that I work in now, from the day I started working there, I told the guy that hired me, I said, this is my plant now. And he kind of laughed at me and said, well, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I said, doing your job. I was wrong.
Love that. That's great.
I was wrong. It took me 6 years to do it. But
I love that answer.
I have the confidence that I didn't have before I went in. So, and it's amazing what it does to you. And you meet some great friends like the guys that you got on here right now.
Wow, just quote unquote take over. That is, it just speaks volumes of that aura. I think it's that projection, right, that they teach you in the military, where you're projecting where you're going to be, what it's going to take to get there, that many civilians don't know how to handle, but you learn it within these trials. Now, with that being said, Lance, what inspired you, man, to get into the military?
My brother getting arrested and going to prison.
Oh, wow.
He committed an armed robbery. He got caught, ended up going to prison. Our family got labeled as criminals. And I went to college for, two different colleges. I got kicked out of my first one. And then I was going to college, the second college, and I got tired of listening to the fat man up front telling me how shit's done. And I said, I've had enough of this here. I went to our mall, to the recruiting station, walked into the Marine Corps, told him what I wanted to do. He said, I can't do that. I got up and walked out, walked into the Army. Recruiter said, this is what I want to do. And he said, yeah, no, we don't have that. I got up, started walking out. He's like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to the Air Force. He's like, no, sit down. 9 months delayed entry, and I got what I wanted. I wanted to be in law enforcement. That's what I was going to college for. It's what I wanted to do. So I spent 9 years in the Army as a military police.
Wow, man. Kudos, man. Much respect with that one. Holy smoke!
Absolutely. So,
That's-
so what was that process like for you? Like, is it what you were expecting? Is
Yeah,
it
it was
is it
actually
is it what you were did it fulfill what you wanted to get out of it, I guess?
it did. I got to do what I wanted to do. I got to, get out of where I was at and where everybody thought that our family was a bunch of criminals and stuff. And I changed my life where I met my wife. So everything worked out really good for me there.
Dude, that's amazing how you changed that narrative by that decision. That's just, it's inspiring just to hear that, and, I wanted to ask the panel, may we start with Ron, what was the most rewarding part of the service?
Oh man, that's a
Loaded, bro.
question.
I come
Yeah.
armed.
Loaded from Dan.
That is a loaded question. So I don't know. I don't have as many accomplishments as someone like Nate with almost 20 years in, but I'll probably say, I found military life a lot easier than civilian life. I felt like we've gotten to make such a massive impact on others. When I became an NCO, I was a sergeant. I felt I was taught it was my job to take care of my troops. Right. So anything they needed, it was my job to jump through hoops to make sure they had everything they needed to get whatever it is that I need done without question. So it was stressful, but just to see them be successful and then watch them grow, and then they reach the same rank that you are, and then do the same thing to their Marines. I think that's probably the best thing. The best thing I've ever gotten out of it. There's a whole bunch of others. That's probably the most rewarding thing is being able to mentor and lead others. And watch them grow from little privates and PFCs all the way up to sergeants and above. A lot of my Marines are now, E7s, E8s, E9s, and it's good to see that. So we hope that we're a big part of that in some way, shape, or form.
Wow, that is highly noble of you, man. Just putting someone else ahead of you and teaching like proteges there. And Nate, what about you, man? What's the most rewarding that you experienced?
That is a tough one to answer. I think, to tell you the truth, I'm going to go with the sappy dad answer. It's my kids. So I think Lance and Ron kind of hit the head and this is something that Ryan and I have in common. I think, all of us and many of the veterans that you'll talk to is just like you had mentioned, it's the trajectory that you change, and who you become after, and how you do it. So, like Ron was saying, when you become a leader and you got to take care of other people, that definitely made me a better dad. And not saying I'm this great dad, but when you come home on some tough days, when you're just dealing with people, military, civilian, but you got some extra stuff you got to do. There's been days that I came home and, I'll look at my kids and I'll be like, is this worth it to you? And they'll be like, you're doing good, Dad. You're fine.
Wow.
And so my wife and I talk about it, she was in when we met, and we chose to join the Air Force, and our kids did not. And so to see them move from, Virginia to the United Kingdom to Germany, Wyoming, Florida, Hawaii, Alabama, and to do it in different schools and say goodbye to their friends, and to still see them be good quality humans, I'm pretty proud of that.
As you should be, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And Ryan, what about you?
Most rewarding. Well, I'm going to say definitely it gave me a career I never would have thought I would be in. Continued doing it, supply chain management, after I got out. Although lately my career sort of shifted what I'm doing, but it's pretty good. But really the number one thing is I'm going to say the people you meet, the friends like Nate. Hell, if I'm not mistaken, I believe next year is going to be 20 years.
Yeah, dude.
So, you have these lifelong friendships. Me and Nate, like he said it earlier, we speak every day. And it's always stupid stuff. We're sending each other stupid gifts and whatever. I literally just sent one to him purposely so I can catch him laughing. Okay. and there's like a bunch of other people. So I think that's like one of the things that I really got out of it. The number one thing is like you meet people when you're in, you have these lifelong friendships. Not only that, being a veteran, once you're out, like hell, I think like face to face, I met Ron last year for the first time in DC, and we saw each other again last month in DC. Well, earlier this month in DC, and last year in Columbus, Ohio. And Ron's a cool dude. So I mean, like you kind of build these relationships because you sort of have this linkage. That's honestly that might be the number one thing for me. That's the one thing that always pops up in my head.
Ryan, I got to be honest, man. I mean, what's rewarding for me as a civilian is seeing how much you grew. Just that mental aspect. Every time I call you, you're like, hey, I'm at Washington. I'm in Washington. You're always in Capitol Hill all the time. And I'm like,
twice a year. That's it.
Yeah, right. Twice too many. You're always there. Now you're being too humble there, man. You're always there. You're always the advocate, and you're always trying to always bring in the veterans, because the mental health is so important in the camaraderie. And not a lot of people understand that, why these posts are so important. Lance, that's I wanted to ask you as well. Do you still have contact? Do you still go to posts just to talk about the past and just or just the present, whatever the case is, just to be surrounded by that strong group of men?
No, I haven't been on a military base since I left the Army back in '95. But I am where only the best go north.
Mm-hmm.
Nate smiled. You know where that is, right, Nate?
Well, I'm from Minnesota, so I'm going to say, let's go.
Oh, no. Minot, North Dakota. That's the Minot Air Force Base's logo. Only the best come north.
I thought he was going to say like Duluth or something like that.
So hold on. I gotta jump in here. So with Lance mentioning why not Minot? So
Yep.
My very first base, I was in Germany for a few years, and you always have this option to, like, if you want to extend, stay there a year or two. And then we have these things called dream sheets, stateside or overseas. So overseas is always premium. So I extended for a year, but then I canceled it because I listened to another stupid airman. And he was like, hey, bro, just stay, put in for like Osan or Kunsan. Sure as hell, he told me the wrong information. I missed the deadline to put in what I wanted, to put in for like Korea or Italy or whatever. That's where I really wanted to go, to Aviano Air Base, Italy. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so screwed. So around that time, 2003, 2004, like everybody I was coming across, like in our squadron, they would be like, oh my God, my assignment came down. I'm going to Why Not Minot. I'm going to No Hope Pope Air Force Base in North Carolina. I'm going to Holloman, New Mexico, and there's nothing there. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so screwed. They're going to send me somewhere. And then sure as hell, I get an assignment to the wonderful beaches, Fort Walton Beach, Florida. So I was like, oh, wow. So that's just a little story. Like when I heard Lance mention Minot, I was like, I always think of Minot. Like nobody wants to go there. It snows like every day except like 2 days a year. I'm sorry, Ron, if you're dealing with that same shit too in Wisconsin.
So
I love it though.
That ain't bad.
I guess another question for the panel: what do you guys miss most about like the active service, like being there on base with the men and women?
It's
Is it like
camaraderie that you have with
Yeah, I was
the
just
people
gonna
that you're
say,
working
yeah.
with.
That's what I would imagine, right? The camaraderie.
Yeah.
Ron, I guess we'll start at the
Yeah.
top. And
I would say with the camaraderie for sure. We have a fun little saying where sometimes you don't miss the, what's the right word? The customs and courtesy of your branch of service, having to deal with the stupid stuff. So in the Marine Corps, we have a saying, we miss the Marines, we don't miss the Corps. So, we miss the Marines, we miss hanging around our brothers and sisters. And, that was one of the big reasons I joined the VFW when I was struggling. homeless and all that other stuff. And I found that camaraderie again, and it helped bring me back. And I have a career now that they helped me find, and been at it 10 years. So camaraderie and being around people that are like-minded and experience what you've experienced, or that you can share stories to without being judged. It's a really, really good thing to have. So that's probably the biggest thing I miss.
Nate?
I mean, nothing yet. We'll find out.
Well,
I think
yeah.
I'll switch it. We'll go. That is one of my biggest fears. I mean, other than securing a job or whatever, like, I'm not naive. I liken it, to sports people that retire. They always say, the thing they miss is you don't miss practice, you don't miss the prep, but you miss the locker room. And, like Ron was saying, and Lance and Ryan will say the same type of thing in their own perspective is, it's a weird organization to where you show up to your work and they're instantly your family in some sort of type of way, some good and some not so good. But, like Ryan and I have been friends for almost 20 years. And we were only stationed at that base together, maybe it was less than a year, maybe, or just short of it, and you don't, I mean, other than college, you don't really do that. And so that's something that the military does. So it's just unique.
Now, I know I might be walking on thin ice here, and you guys let me know, but what's a misconception people have about being a veteran?
Oh, Dan, you know what? Yeah, you already broke through the ice. So
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Well, you always break the ice.
Always, no matter what.
Well, something interesting that we have a big veterans initiative through the VFW here in New York City, the Vallone Veterans Initiative, named after Paul Vallone. He was a former New York City councilman, and he was also the deputy commissioner for New York City Department of Veteran Services. So he passed a few years ago, and this initiative came alive, basically bringing service officers to New York City. Basically, the VFW. I'm employed by the VFW at the state level, and one of the things I found interesting. So I'm also sort of like, besides helping veterans do claims, and we've been doing it for free. It's so funny. Like twice I had today, like ask me how much, and I'm like, nothing. Don't bring me cookies. Like, if you do want to bring me something, bring me carrots, because look at me. I can't use cookies. Maybe I'll go on the carnivore diet with you guys, Lance and Dan.
Come through, baby. Come through, my man.
Dude, I know where you live. I see when you fire up that grill.
Yeah, man. Come through. It'll
That
change
grill
your
doesn't
life,
go off.
dude.
I
It'll
want some
change your life, man.
I want some real Argentinian barbecue.
Yeah.
You know what? And I've been thinking about Boca Juniors on Queens Boulevard.
They're overrated.
I passed by it today.
They're overrated, my man. They have changed so much. They give you like the worst kind of meats. So come by
you know
me
what?
and I'll cook
I
for
want
you.
you to give me the best kind of meat. So I'm going to Boca Dan's now.
Boca Dan's, baby. Come through, my man. Come through.
Well, let's just be happy. There's no sailors in here. So
Yes.
anyway,
I'm close enough, man. Don't be. It's kind of questionable. If you're unaware, that means you're
you know what?
homoerotic. I mean,
you know what, Rob?
Yikes.
Listen,
penises on
you
the brain.
guys
You
were
can't
under the,
help
Navy,
it.
the Department of the Navy, but still, you guys are actually the men's department. So,
Oh
like
my
penises.
goodness.
but now the nature of the job. So the Vallone Initiative, we do one claims clinic per month through every single one of the 51 city council districts. And like today, I was in Flushing, Queens. Yesterday, I forgot what the hell. I was somewhere in Brooklyn, and the big misconception. Well, I don't want to get too. This is where my own hat, my own personal hat. So I don't represent anything on this, but there's the one thing I realized by speaking to different elected officials in the city council, especially the ones that tend to skew left. They think all people that served in the military are conservative. And I got to break it down to them, like, because they think that veterans only live in conservative parts of New York City. But I kind of correct them and I say, no, that's not the truth. Think of it like this. The veteran community is like a small microcosm of the entire New York City population. It's like this anywhere. And you're going to have people skewed to the left, to the right, anywhere in the middle. So I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions I always come across. Obviously, mental health is another big one. I know me and Nate, we speak about it. Ron, I've heard his story, and Ron's, I mean, hell, he's a big leader in Wisconsin. The past few years, VFW state commander, and Ron, like I said, Ron's got a pretty cool like story, but like I think that's a big thing. Like mental health, there's always like a big stigma around it. Like people don't want to talk about it. But Dan, don't worry about it when you mention the thin ice part. People do have to talk about this. It's also not a veteran thing. It's everyone thing.
Right.
And it's disheartening. And honestly, I think a few years ago it really hit home finding out about Kyle. And it was like, wow, because we knew Kyle. Kyle was, I want to add another word on top of when you were talking about him. Kyle was like one of the kindest people you can meet, with the best Arnold impersonation. He was great. You would have never expected that, but it's just these hidden wounds that people have, and it can never be solved, but it can be mitigated through positive means like healthy eating, exercise, whatever. Hell, I struggle with my own stuff on a daily basis. It's not easy. Nate knows it because we message constantly. He hears me always bitching when I'm messaging him. But I think that's another big misconception, is that not just that, but there's a misconception that we're crazy. If somebody has a mental health issue, anxiety, depression, that they're gonna pull something crazy and do whatever to other people. No, that's far from it. That is far from the case. And I don't, it's mental health's coming more to light, but I think the conversations need to be more frank and open and honest. Honestly, we're never going to get down to zero. Unfortunately, people will slip through the cracks. We can mitigate it, but unfortunately, there's there could be governmental problems. There's personal problems where people don't want to talk to one another because they have their own agendas. And I'm a firm believer. Like, listen, it's cool you got your own agenda, but let's come together for a common cause. And we're going to disagree on stuff, but let's have a professional conversation and respectful, and let's get down to it, because this thing is never going to get solved. We can mitigate it, but that's one of the big things. I can go on and on about this. It's just a big thing that I always come across, and I think another thing too is, and it's funny because my wife mentions it to me all the time, is that there's always an assumption that veterans are looking for handouts. Nope. We and people in the military, we just want a hand up. That was maybe one of the reasons why I stayed Lance, Ron, Nate, myself, and most other vets will join. We joined because this is an opportunity for a hand up at life. And it's like, I see it on a daily basis, and I hear stuff. I hear some of the most outlandish things, and I constantly got to have this conversation and educate people. But that's really where it starts. You educate people, and you hope that they spread it, and it just grows bigger and bigger, where the right information gets out, because it's just so much misinformation that, especially about the specific MilVet community, where people they get skittish around it. But like you mentioned earlier, Dan, the thin ice thing, veterans are pretty cool. People that serve in the military. I constantly am around a lot of elected officials, and there's always a joke like they're bullshit artists or whatever. But one of the things I always tell them, like, listen, especially when we have any type of legislative event or breakfast, the new ones, I talk to them very frankly, and I say, listen, you need to be honest. If you don't know something and a veteran asks you, don't lie to them. Tell them you don't know, and don't make assumptions, because veterans are like bloodhounds. We will catch when you're lying. I've seen it time and time again, and that specific person, they're done. They're blacklisted. I've seen it over and over. But I'm going to shut up there.
Do you guys agree with this statement. I kind of do as well. That and again, Johnny Boy, thank you for hopping on as well. The misconceptions and whatnot, how movies are portraying a soldier, and people walk out of that movie theater and be like, oh yeah, that's how it is. It's not that bad. Like, do you sense that there's a false narrative of how Hollywood paints what a soldier truly is and what the military is? And Lance, if you'd be so kind.
Yeah, there's a big difference in what an actual soldier is out there or service member is compared to what Hollywood does. I mean, you can look at just look at the one show that was out there now, Reacher.
Mm.
It's just crazy what they do on that, and there's no real basis for anything that he does in that show. But I don't like the way Hollywood portrays a lot of stuff, so I don't do a whole lot with movies or TV or anything like that. Just because of that.
I want to tie this in, right? So does that also kind of exemplify the whole mental health issue too? Like, as a soldier, I would assume that you're trying to move on, you're trying to get back into civilian life, and then you have these kind of storylines where people have never ever served and they're making movies about it. How do you weigh that? Trying to push back on these false narratives and moving forward with the truth. Ryan left on that one. Hopefully he'll be back soon. I just looked and he just said, "I'm out of here."
I'm sorry, man.
Ron.
I broke through the ice. I apologize.
Oh, you did. Ron, if you'd like to answer that one.
I mean, it's tough, I mean, we see a lot of service members who, like to say, who do stuff like that, or people who have a minimal experience and they make it be this massive experience. I mean, even I've seen veterans, for some reason, alter the DD-214s to show wars they've never earned, but they have all these other wars that they have earned that are substantially better. It's like, why do you need to, do something like that? I've seen civilians, try to get things that veterans get. I mean, I've been out of the military for going on 13 years now, or 13. I'm a Marine. Math isn't my strong suit. It's somewhere higher than 10. I've seen civilians try to get these, benefits that we get. It's like we don't get anything. What are we getting that you're not getting, that you have to pretend, to do something? Or even the movies, they make something like, what was that dog? Now I work in veterinary medicine, so I get into a lot of animal or military working dog movies, and they piss me off. But it's that one Marine Corps movie with the female Marine, and she has a dog, and they just made that movie some crazy heroic movie. I was like, if you look at the real story, it was a pretty normal freaking thing, nothing too outrageous or outlandish. And, all you can do is try to inform as best as possible, but there's nothing you can do. Hollywood is Hollywood. They're going to make their movies and everything dramatic. People are going to see that, want to emulate that. And, even we have it in our own community as veterans. Veterans think that their service isn't, the way it should be. I mean, I have a good amount of deployments under my belt. I have, and I'm proud of my service, but I'm not an infantry guy. I got to fix computers for, helicopter units, got to fly in helicopters and stuff like that. I wasn't ground pounding on the ground, and I'm absolutely proud of my service. But unfortunately, not every veteran is like that either. So you have it from both sides. It's a tough thing to combat, but, in my opinion, there's not much you can do about it other than educate as best as you can. And unless they're doing actual stolen valor or they're receiving monetary benefits from lying, then, it's like, what can you do but let them live in a state of delusion, right?
Right. Now, I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this. And I guess that this is more of a question for Ryan. You deal with people coming through the VFW all the time. What are, and every situation is unique, every person is unique. But what do you find are some of the the most common issues that people present you with, and like what can people do to maybe get better on the other side of this?
Well, I'm not the only one that could say it. Well, Lance, I just met you. Nate, I think he has yet to get out and see the transition side. Ron, I know could speak a lot on that. So and I would say this, I wear a lot of different caps in the VFW and throughout the veterans community in New York City. But I always say like to me, the post is most important because that's where we get real shit done.
Right.
For one, I actually get quite a few vets where they don't know what the hell the VFW is. And one of them, it was interesting. He's my youngest member. He's active duty with the 10th Mountain Division up in Fort Drum, and he's a good kid. It wasn't last year. It was the year before, the day before Veterans Day. I was helping set up a post or whatever. So our event the next day, and I was tossing out the trash, and I see this kid. He's like looking up at the window, and he sees we have this poster. It's like, where in the world have you served? And it shows all the different decorations for your eligibility. And he's like, "Oh, what's this place?" And I'm like, I told him, "You ever heard of it?" He got silent, and he pulled out a card. It was military ID. I was like, "Oh, wow." And we ended up chatting. I brought him inside. We were chatting. I told him about the organization and why it was created or whatever. It was funny because he grew up a few blocks from there, and he thought it was like a weird type of recruiting office. And I was like, "Dude, no, this is for us once we get out, or even while you're still in." And but it's I don't know, that's a hard question, Liam, because it's just every single person's different. That's
Right.
one thing I realized. Like him in particular, and they always come to you with, they have an issue, and it's like, "Hey, can you help me out?" And I never like to push signing up somebody right away for the VFW. It's a great organization, because for one, we got to feel them out, but two, we want them, and I never rush to sign people up. I want them to feel like they're wanted and they want to go. But everyone has an issue. Some of it could be like, "Oh my God, my claim got denied by the VA. I need help," or whatever. At least that's something I can help with. I'm accredited to do claims by the VA, and or it could be something else like this my youngest member of my post, where we sat down, and he's active duty, and his parents and his wife are undocumented, all three of them, and he's trying to go through the process, but he doesn't know how. And I said, "Let me help you. I have contacts. Obviously, I do a lot of legislative policy work, so I connected him with the local congresswoman there, is actually AOC, and the staff really helped him out. I mean, he's still going through the process, and we talk constantly. He always sends me a message. He's a good kid, and it feels weird because it feels like 20 years ago I was that kid doing dumb shit because he made some stupid decision. I said, "Listen, I'm going to set you up with the right people. That's what we're going to do, but you got to listen to me." But he's just one example. It's like having people set up with the right resources. It can be related to military service, or it could be related to personal stuff like that kid, because he was scared that his parents and his wife were going to be deported back to South America. So, it's a constant thing. I wish Eddie was back on here. Eddie and Nate knows it. I get frustrated every day, and Nathan and Eddie are always like, "Hey man, like just take a break from this." But there's no taking a break. I wear too many hats, and it's not even about wearing the hat. It's about like, and I learned this from my dad, who himself, he was a veteran, so served in the Air Force. And I'm still trying to find his record so I can kind of match it up. But my dad served apparently with Chuck Norris. I had to mention his name since he passed.
Oh, wow.
He actually did. Chuck Norris is one of the most famous airmen. Sorry, Nathan, you're not that famous yet. But
I've never gotten
Chuck
there.
Norris was actually, what's the best way to say it so civilians would understand? Military police. But it's security forces or air police at the time. And my dad was also the same thing. So, and they were stationed in the same unit in Korea at the same time back in the late 50s. So,
Wow.
No wonder why my dad always had me watching like freaking Missing in Action on a Sunday afternoon or Delta
Well,
Force.
There's a wild speculation that Chuck Norris did build the actual hospital before he was born.
I believe that.
Well, I thought he built the Stairway to Heaven.
He did. He did. He did. He did a lot of things. He did a lot of
But I'm
things.
sorry, I'm sorry, Liam. I can go on and on, but really, it's like every instance is different, and like I said, it's just so complicated. All these issues, and it's like transition. That's a big one. I always I constantly speak to New York City Council members and their staff, and I tell them why the importance of this, not just like behind the numbers, the intangibles. Because as we know, New York City is super expensive. We got a huge housing crisis, and I'm going to say on a weekly basis, I get an email from a council member, and I get to send them to the housing unit with the Department of Veteran Services in the city. And everybody's different. Every veteran's different. They're going through something. Most of them that we come across, they do want help.
Right.
The ones that don't want help, then it kind of sucks, because I always take it personally too. Like, I want to see somebody get better. That's how my dad taught me. You help people. That's it. My dad always did it. And Dan, you already know like all the stories. I think you met my dad once or twice when you were flipping pizzas.
The original Guinea.
By the way, Dan is the best pizza man. So he's retired now.
I am.
So,
Thank
but
you.
we're not talking Domino's. But
No. You know, I wanted. Thanks for that one. I wanted to pose a question to the panel. Like, what do you think? Let me see how I could put this. Don't you think that there should be better caveats, something better to be given back to the veterans? Like when you guys come back home and whatnot, and you're returning back to civilian life, what would you like to see more of that the government gives you back? You know, whether it's better home interest rates or better mortgages or a car, whatever the case is. But I always feel like, you know, whenever I talk to a veteran, I'm like, man, you know, I wish that they would give you more, because you gave your life, you traded that. Or am I going beyond a certain boundary that I shouldn't be going? Lance, if you like to answer that one.
You know, and I've thought about this a lot, actually, recently, because I live up here in Minot. We have the Air Force Base here, and I see a lot of the young people come through. I've actually hired a few of them for where I work and everything. And one of the things I'd like to see for our active duty personnel now that are out there, and for the veterans that come out after them or come on now, I'd like to see them have better health care even after they get out. It's something that's extremely important. And right now, I mean, Nate, you're active duty now.
Yep.
You have to pay for health care. That's BS.
Not yet.
Yeah. A lot of guys around here, I mean, the Air Force Base, guard and stuff, they got to pay for TRICARE. They got to do other stuff. If they come into the community here, they end up having to pay for it. I think the hospital on base here actually closed down. So I think the healthcare, mental health, dental, basic healthcare for active duty and veterans and their families would be something that would be really good for them.
Great point.
Nate?
We'll pass it to Ron.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of have an odd answer to that, maybe. I don't have healthcare. I use the VA because I can't afford healthcare through my work, because veterinary technicians, we don't get paid a whole lot of money. But I'm fortunate enough to be able to have a good VA healthcare system. I go to Minneapolis VA, since I live right 10 minutes away from the border of Minnesota. And that's probably been one of the best VAs I've been to. I have yet to have any issues with the VA. The work I do with the VFW is exactly right where I think veterans needs or wants should be. We're trying to advocate to fix all the holes that are currently in the programs, such as the Major Richard Start Act. Trying to get better on-base TAPS programs to allow VSOs such as the Legion, the VFW, DAV, stuff that we can help you with as you're transitioning onto bases, stuff like that. Otherwise, I think. Again, I don't think veterans really look for handouts or, they really need anything. Most of us nowadays, I can't think of anybody other than Vietnam veterans that have been drafted. We all volunteered. We already, have some really good programs like the VA Home Loan, which I'm hoping, in the next 5 to 10 years that we get to, I get to use that benefit. But I think we have pretty good benefits. And I think for the most part, we do a good job, or at least veteran service organizations such as the VFW does a really good job in ensuring veterans get all the benefits they receive afterwards. So I don't think there's anything more, short of privately owned entities, giving us whatever they, feel that they would like to give to support the veterans. So that's kind of my answer. Of course, it just, depends where you're at. I went to the VA in Charleston, South Carolina, and that was back in 2013 when right before I had gotten out. My daughter's mother, she's a Marine as well. She went up there and she got treated like crap. They didn't think that she was a veteran because she was a female, and she said, "Nope, I'm a Marine." And they were horrible. When I got out the service, I was in San Diego, California, and I went to the La Jolla VA. They were amazing at the time. I can't speak for now, but when I was there, they were pretty good. And then the VA center out in Minneapolis, probably one of the best ones I've been to. I've done site visits with all the VAs and everything as a state commander for the Wisconsin VFW. I went to Lovell in Illinois. I've been to Michigan up north since we border Michigan as well. We have veterans that go up there. And, the VA has its faults like anything. Nothing is perfect in any way, shape, or form. But, for everybody that wants universal health care, just take a look at how the VA is ran. It's not the most efficient place there is by any means. But I personally feel a lot of the people there care about the veterans and want to help. And they help to the best of their ability, given what they have, without the red tape. So I, as a veteran myself, I can't think of too much that I personally need more other than what we're already advocating for. We're not asking for more benefits. I think, we're just asking for the benefits that were promised us to actually receive them.
Huge. Now I have a question here. Johnny Boy has asked, I think it's very interesting here. Thoughts on the age being raised to 42 in the Army. Are you guys against this, for this, or is mixed reviews here? Nate, we haven't heard from you in a while.
I enjoy this because then I'm going to be 42 in the fall. So as soon as I start seeing the rummers of the branches raising the service, I instantly send this to my friends and brothers. I'm like, "Hey, slots open. Come and join me." Yeah. Overall though, it's fine. I've had people in their 30s as younger airmen. It's weird, but generally those people also have life experience. So when they come in, they're like Lance. They know what they want. They'll tell you. You just got to help them find their path and get out of their way. So that it's nice. It's not bad. Open it up. It's okay.
Lance, what do you think about that?
I read that the other day when that came out, that they were doing this, and it just seems kind of weird that somebody as old as 42 wants to join now. I don't know how they would do coming in there, dealing in basic training, dealing with the head games that go on in there.
Wow, and the physical toll.
Right, and the physical toll that it's going to put on your body. It's going to be rough.
I don't recover the same.
What was it?
I was going to say, yeah, you probably don't recover the same.
No, not at all. But if somebody wants to join at 42, they'll find out what it's like.
So I wanted to kind of tie these loose ends here with mental health. And you know what, Lance, I appreciate you for coming on as well. And this is where I'm going to give you the platform on this, because I think we're kind of onto something here with nutrition. There's a lot of stuff going on here, whether it's in the States, Italy, Germany, whatever the case is. We can't focus. There's so much stuff going on in life that sometimes it's what's giving you the most fog brain is the foods that we introduce. Lance, can you describe a little bit of the nuances of where this lifestyle kind of helped you out here?
Well, first of all, once you cut out all the garbage that they've been telling us that we're supposed to be eating, and you just get back to a basic proper human diet, which is basically a high-fat animal meat diet. You cut the excess sugars out, you cut all the seed oils out. The one thing that really happens is your mind clears up. It helps in so many things. Your mental clarity. At my work, the first 7 or 8 hours of my day, I work 12-hour shifts. The first 7 or 8 hours of my day, I was always busy. I always felt like I was behind. I get that same work done now in about 4 hours, and then I get to do what I want to do. The clarity that your mind gets is just tremendous. I was on, I don't know if Dan knows this or not, but I was on 5 blood pressure medications, and that's why I started this diet, was to help my blood pressure. Within 6 weeks, I came off of all 5 of my blood pressure medications. And in the 18 months that I've been on it now, I've lost 142 pounds.
Wow.
My mental clarity is gone, is tremendous. My mood, I would have never done something like this before. This was beyond me. I could have never done anything like this, where I talk to people on the internet and just be out here and doing stuff. I do a live broadcast every Saturday and Sunday just for support for people doing the same thing. It's just, there's so much that this does for your hormones and for everything in your body. It just clears all the poison out of it. And I'm 59 years old. I wake up every morning pain-free, which 2 years ago, it took me 10 minutes just to get out of bed. Now I can get right out of bed and I go about my day. I don't have to warm my body up to get moving and stuff. So eating the way that Dan and I are eating is the carnivore diet. And it's not about eating steak every night. Like what I was doing before this year came on, I was eating. What was I eating? Ground beef and some pulled pork. I made a pork shoulder for my granddaughter's potluck that they were doing. But your life changes so much just by getting your head cleared. And that's what this does for you. It clears your head. Is the biggest thing it does.
Lance, do you feel like sooner or later this is going to trickle into posts like what Ryan does, where, okay, mental health, we have to start with nutrition. This is the route that we have to go. The studies are finally going to be honed in where we're going to start kind of doubting what they're telling us. High cholesterol, very bad for you. Like I know for a fact. Ron, let me ask you, is high cholesterol bad for you?
The way I grew up, high cholesterol is bad for you and eggs are horrible for you.
Nate, is high cholesterol bad for you? Does high cholesterol cause heart attacks? What you've been taught.
Yeah.
Right? Ryan, Egg yolks. What's healthier, the egg yolk or the egg white? What's better? What you've been taught?
The eggshell.
No, for real. What is it? Is it? What have you been taught? The egg yolk
No.
is not healthy, and
No,
the
it's
egg,
not
but
healthy.
the egg white is the best, right? The egg white is the best.
Yeah.
Right?
That's always
That's what they taught you, right? That's what they taught me. That's the narrative. And
Yeah.
fat is no good. When you go to a steakhouse, the first thing you do is you cut the fat out. And it's crazy because once we start calling this out and wrapping our minds on, you know what? There's this poison kind of nefarious cloud that they continue to bestow upon us over and over. They don't want you thinking. They don't want you critically thinking at all. At any point of your life, they want you to just submit to the masses over and over and over. But honestly, like something with nutrition, it rewires your mind. And that's why, Lance, I appreciate you coming on, because there's so many veterans right now that are suffering from mental health, and maybe just tweaking what you put in your mouth can completely change your life. Just wanted to throw it out there, because I've been seeing it as well. And I honestly think my good friend, who unfortunately, he took his life, which sucks, But with that being said, maybe if this was there, because we're all looking for pills, man. We're all looking for the magic pill. I got high blood pressure. Bop. Let's get some pills going. My back pain hurts. Bop. Take 2 pills. Oh, my head. Aspirin. Why do we have to go through those routes if we can change our lifestyle? And I think many veterans can benefit with that. But I mean, to each their own, right? I just wanted to throw that out there because I think it's extremely important.
And I agree with Dan. I think if you guys are having any issues, there's nothing wrong with trying this diet for a minimum of 30 days. It's an elimination diet. You eliminate the poisons that are in your body, and you'll be amazed at what happens in 30 days. That's what I was doing this diet. I did it for 30 days to see if I could control my blood pressure a little bit. And it's been 18 months now, and I haven't felt better than this ever in my life.
Dude, I thank you for sharing that, man. And Ron, Nate, how has your nutrition been throughout, your tenure in the service and then out of the service? Start with
Ron laughed first.
Ron. Go for it.
It was crap during and it's crap after. I mean, I'm sure mostly everyone can agree that while we're in the service, we eat like absolute dog crap. We're pounding, Red Bulls or freaking Rippets, piping hot Rippets if you were in the desert drinking those. Get our cruise box full of Rippets, but energy drinks and half the people are smoking, a couple of cigs right before we go on our 3-mile run for the PFT or something else like that. You're working these crazy hours, doing some crazy things, and you don't have access to be able to cook whatever you want. So you eat like crap. By the time you get out, you just go to the gas station real quick or go to the 7-Day or something, grab something real quick. And then my struggle is when I got out, I had all these mental health issues. So, just started eating like crap or not eating at all. And then started drinking. And if you're not eating while you're drinking, that's not helping either. It's a struggle. So even to this day, it's still a struggle. Now I just eat. So, good times.
Yeah, I think I've seen, dining facilities certainly have changed over the years. And Ron nails it. Rippets are still the best ones. I don't care what anybody says. Might be nostalgia, but whatever. It's fine. But no, I think, as a military and a force, like something that we talk about is, hey, if we're supposed to be, these elite fighting forces, regardless of your role, like it doesn't matter. You should be eating well, and those options need to be represented. And I think basic type nutrition classes along with learning how to run. I mean, you should learn what types of foods you're putting in your body and what it does to your body. What is a carb? What does it do? Think, what is a protein? Why is that important? Things of that nature. How does it affect your recovery? Like all those things. So, I mean, as I got older, like Rod said, food, I like food. But I've also learned, like, I track my food now, and I know there's certain things so that affect my body in certain ways. Like, I know I can't eat a lot of carbs, so I'm not in the carnivore diet like you guys are, but I think it's cool that you found something that's working for you. But I do know that, like, I'm a lean beef, chicken, turkey, a little bit of rice, potatoes, and veggies. I'm a pretty boring eater, but like Lance said, it makes my body feel good. I don't feel bloated, and I can do PT the way that I want to.
Love it. Ryan, when you go to the posts and whatnot, what are kind of the guidance towards mental health? Like, are there certain programs just to help?
There's quite a few programs out there, both private sector and governmental sector. So locally in New York City, we have the New York City Department of Veteran Services. They have their own mental health team. The private side, I do have to throw out a big name, since his stadium is literally up the block from my home VFW post. Steve Cohen, owner for the Mets. So a lot of people don't realize this about Steve, is he's the father of a Marine who served in Afghanistan. So people don't think that this billionaire owner that owns this Major League Baseball team, that his son enlisted in the Marine Corps. And so it was sometime after I think his son got out. Steve started up he must have noticed that there was certain things going on with his son. So he started up the Cohen's Veterans Network. And there's over 20 clinics, obviously private sector, it's nonprofit. He makes no money off of it. Over 20 clinics throughout the entire U.S. And mostly around military installations to kind of fill in those gaps. Oh, and something VA related, and obviously the government side, but in the federal side, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, I always kind of guide veterans towards the vet center. Like, we have one up in the Bronx, we have one in Harlem, one in Queens, Brooklyn, and they're all over the place. Like, Ron knows where they're at around Wisconsin, and then he's so close to the border, Minnesota. I'm sorry, I'm gonna mess with Nathan.
That was so
Don't
bad.
you know?
You know the funny thing is, I do have to circle back to this. I heard in one single sentence Ron say two specific words, and I was like, the first word was like really Bronx. The second one, he mentioned Minnesota, and I'm like, oh man, he really does sound like he's been living there his whole life. But yeah, the vet centers are pretty good. And it's free services. Unfortunately, and I've seen it time and time again, where veterans don't realize all the resources that are out there. And I still get shocked, like, until today. Like, over the past week, it was like practically every day. It's, you're sitting there interviewing a veteran, trying to figure out, okay, do they have a problem and how do we fix it? They come with different questions. It could be related to housing. It could be like related to money. Obviously, we can't give them money, since I'm a VSO, veteran service officer. We don't have it in our desk, but I have my laptop out, and I'm like, let's see how we can get you money that you earned through compensation through the VA. So, but also I'd like to circle back on something. Lance and Dan, you were talking about the carnivore stuff. Mm-hmm. So something that Ron knows this intimately as well. For the VFW, on the national legislative side, we've been lobbying for alternative therapies. Mm-hmm. So one of the big things that I know Lance sort of mentioned it was taking 5 different blood pressure medications. And hell, you hear veterans, and Ron's gone through it. I've gone through it, where like you're at the pharmacy at the VA, and they give you all these different medications. Like we're literally walking out sounding like an old person with a bunch of like pennies in their pocket. But one of the things that we're pushing is that a lot of veterans are kind of going towards alternative therapies. It could be cannabis, ketamine infusion, MDMA, hyperbaric oxygen chamber, something like that. Like a bunch of different things that, it's better than just taking all these chemicals into your body. So especially our generation, our post 9/11 generation, I come by a ton of vets that they're eating gummies, they're smoking a vape, and every single one of them, I haven't heard a single one yet say that they wish they can go back to the pills. So unfortunately, that's one of the things that we hear all the time too. Like Ron knows it really well, and when veterans are taking pills, it totally shifts their chemical balance. And we've come by quite a few veterans where it's like they'll tell you stories, and hell, we've probably gone through it, where how you just feel so off, where these pills you have to take, these medications. So yeah, I just had to circle back to that.
No, you had saying that like a lot of people still don't know what you guys do. Now, why do you think there's some that are unaware, and like what can you guys do to raise more awareness that there is? Because it seems like a lot of these guys, once they're through with the military, like they're just kind of like on their own. Like how can you spread the message more? There is.
Well, I would probably say, I know, again, like Ryan, we've been DC a few times now, advocating for things. Again, I think I spoke about it earlier, but one of them is trying to get VSOs and other organizations that can provide assistance to service members transitioning before they even get out. We can have somebody like Ryan, who's a service officer, who can legally file a claim on behalf of a veteran. They can file claims for veterans before they even leave the service. So that by the time they get out, they may already be rated. I remember when I first got out the service back in 2013, we were waiting a year, 2 years, 3 years sometimes for a rating. So to have been able to have that option, would have been substantially beneficial, potentially could have prevented me from being homeless, at the time, and becoming alcoholic and all this other stuff. I think now I can only speak for Wisconsin, but I've seen claims throughout the entire state, while I was a state commander, and claims have dropped to, a few months to, I think the longest in 2 years I was a state commander was 6 months from veterans that we were assisting. So it's shrunken drastically, but as a veteran service organization like the VFW, we're constantly around all the bases that are in Wisconsin. We're going up to different conventions, Comic-Cons, things like that, where we know our generation of veterans are going to be at, and just hanging out, not necessarily pressuring them to join and do anything else like that, but at least educating of benefits that are there. I know my local VFW, they've adopted 2 units that are local, and, once a quarter we meet up with them and buy them all lunch. We have a little sit down, and we bring our county veteran service officer with us. And, we speak about the benefits. Hey, before you get out, do these things, give us a call, we can help you. Or even when I was in, I've been Iraq and Afghanistan a bunch of times. I know most of you guys here can speak to it. At the time when I was going to medical, that wasn't a thing. You went to medical, that means somebody else is picking up your slack. So you never went to medical for anything, because you were going to get, bullied or, pissed on, or you're going to get some crap for going to medical. And out of all my deployments, when I went to the VA to finally get seen, my medical record is only this thin, but they see all my deployments. They have other statements, but no medical records to go with the statements in my file and everything else. So, I tell go to medical. You have you're getting migraines or something, go to medical. More likely than not, they're going to turn you away but at least it's documented because they legally have to document it. So if they turn you away, they're going to turn you away, but it's going to show that they turned you away. But at least you have a nexus right there saying, yep, I've been having this. So I can only speak on behalf of the VFW because I'm a member of all other organizations, but I'm only active in the VFW. But, we're trying to be in more places than behind a bar. Believe it or not, a big misconception is the VFW is not a bar. We have no rules or regulations in the VFW that regulate us with the bar. We are a veteran service organization that advocates for veterans, builds camaraderie, and everything else. And you can look at our bylaws. None of it says anything about a bar. It mentions building a house committee, and they can run your bar for you. But we're not a bar. And so as a veteran service organization, I think we're doing a lot better job from getting out from behind a bar top and getting in front of people and service members and letting them know who we are, what we can provide for them. And again, even if they don't qualify to be a member of the VFW, we're still going to help you. You are a veteran. Full stop. That's all we care about.
As like an outsider looking, like I don't know, but it seems like there should be like a better exit plan in place rather than like no veteran should be homeless, like no veteran should be struggling. That's the way I look at it personally. If there's there's got to be a better way. Like I don't have the answer for it. I'm also not equipped. I don't have the experience to find a better solution. But I just feel like there's got to be a better.
So I think we all agree, but I know Ryan, as a service officer, he can probably speak more to it. But there's a lot of red tape when it comes to us trying to get on bases and trying to educate those service members who are transitioning. Again, even if it's filing a claim, even something as simple as resume writing, to be able to make sure that you can properly translate what you did in the service into a civilian resume to make sure that you're prepared for the future. Because I wasn't prepared to get out. I planned to do a full-on 20. Then the downsizing happened. And we know how that worked. I had several strikes on my first enlistment where I got, ninja punch and NJP'd and demoted a couple of times. But that was my first enlistment. Second enlistment did fantastic, but I had a few marks. I wasn't given the opportunity to re-enlist again. I was allowed to finish out my contract honorably, but I was not prepared to leave the service. And the 2 days of transition assistance program class that I had didn't give me anything to help prepare me. No resume writing, nothing. No, hey, this is the VA. This is what the VA actually does. This is how you get the benefits you've earned. I had no idea how, hey, I need to go to medical, but I don't know how to do that. None of that stuff was available. So I think, again, as a VFW, we are fighting in Congress to be able to allow us onto installations to be able to assist those service members and at least start providing some type of assistance for that and an actual program instead of just, hey, is all your SIF gear checked out? Did you go to medical? Did you go to dental? Did you do all this stuff? Oh, you did? Okay, bye.
Right.
That's typically what we get. So we are actively working, but it's government. Most of us don't like governments, and it's government.
Okay.
So I will go on top of what Ron said. Ron just gave an excellent example of like the micro, like on the ground. But just to kind of give a full scope of the VFW, and Ron said it, we're not a bar. And I always like to say we're not a casino because you will go to post with his like slot machines or whatever, pull tabs and all that. That's just the extra. That's part of it. Like Ron mentioned, House Committee, like the way the organizations run, we got to have committees, so we're organized. But that's a key word, organize. So I always like to I always ask people, what do you know about the VFW? And then I start educating them, and I say, the VFW was created on grassroots organizing. Basically, a little history, 13 veterans that came back from the Spanish-American War from 1898. They met in a tailor shop in Columbus, Ohio, and was like, hey, let's start up this organization. Now there's also debate that apparently was also started in Denver, but that's a whole other story. And because they realized like there was no pension, there was no sort of compensation for disabilities on the battlefield. And hell, this goes back even to the Civil War. And so VFW is pretty old. So that's one. And then as far as the size of it, 1.3 million members globally.
Wow.
We have posts chartered all over. So it's a pretty large organization, and it's a pretty large organizing force. And there was something. I know Ron was there in his little tight freaking Silkies. There was a Bonus Army Memorial March there at the Capitol at the Lincoln Memorial, and I remember, you know, I didn't go through it. I was still wearing my suit, but yeah, I always tell people, like, look up the history of the Bonus Army, Bonus Expeditionary Army from 1932, where tens of thousands of veterans and their families encamped on the grounds of the Capitol, and they refused to move until they got their little pittance of a benefit bonus from World War One. But basically, that I always say the VFW is the core baseline of the VFW is advocacy and assistance, advocating for what's right and assisting veterans through claims, or like Ron mentioned, help with resume writing, and he mentioned these TAP classes. I went through it, and it's like a factory line. They're more focused on getting you checked out of medical, dental, all that
They
stuff.
just want the signature.
Exactly. And there's one of the other service officers we work with. Well, you know her. She was on the show last year, Maddie, and she would handle West Point. And they will only tell it. They would say, "Listen, you only got 15 minutes. There's no way that's going to take 15 minutes to go through the whole process. Is going to take minimum at least a few hours." There's things have gotten better. I know. Well, I got out in 08, so me and Ron were like sort of close to the time. So like around 2008, 2013, 2008 was a terrible time. Getting out right after the market took a crash. But that's what I say. That's what the VFW is. We do a ton of community service. So because we come back to our communities, we go back to our neighborhoods where we grew up in, or we're somehow married to those communities. But I the best way I kind of put it to people, recently we had our first New York City Veterans Advisory Board meeting, which that's another hat I wear. And the new commissioner for Department of Veteran Services, you know, she was there, and it was a very good conversation. It was on benefits, and everybody who wasn't on the board that was there. And I told them, I said, listen, we're all leaders here in this room. We need to go out there. If we see a problem, we need to organize. If unions can do it, Teamsters, Local 3, Local 1, and they can show up in numbers, and they'll get stuff done. Another thing recently, and Ron knows this pretty well too, when the VA came out with a decision last month saying that, say, if you take medication, you go through therapy, that means you're solved. If it's mental health or a physical condition, that shit never fucking happens. Sorry, Dan, you got to turn this to a rated R. Sorry, Dan and Liam, but but you know what ended up happening? And I was speaking to a few people about it, because in a week they reversed course and they pulled it back because it was bullshit. Basically they were saying that if you take medication for, say, anxiety, depression, you're solved. No, all it does is mitigate the issue. It doesn't solve it. Any
The issue
mental
is still there. You're just treating the issue now.
Exactly. So what happened a week later? He reversed course, and part of that had to do with one. I just saw that comment at the bottom. The first thing is, you see, now I lost track, but you know, ultimately, it's what happened after that was the Secretary of the VA, Timothy Collins. He reversed course, and part of that had to do with, we have the larger organizing factions. Basically, the VFW is the largest combat veterans organization globally. There was a statement that came out from the Commander-in-Chief for National, Carol Whitmore. And not only that, social media was a buzz. That's a big thing I've noticed elected officials look at. Social media is another way to organize. When you start seeing a lot of negative comments, elected officials, they get a little scared, because they start thinking, oh my God, how many of those people are my constituents that are going to be voting for me this June?
Right.
And VFW is just one side. The Legion's actually bigger, and that's the only organization that's bigger. But we, or the DAV is another one. Like, people will come out in numbers, and elected officials see this, and that's the power of advocacy, and that's what the VFW is all about. So, I mean, getting out there and also spreading the word. Ron knows, even when he's He's in his regular job, and I got no choice. I pretty much do it for free at my post, and I get paid for it from the state VFW. So I constantly come across it. But Ron knows that like every single day, we always come across somebody that somehow needs help, and or they ask a question and what can we do to make it better, and we always have the same answer, and we only hope that they can kind of play telephone game, not in a bad way, but say the exact same information and spread it out.
If,
So
if
now-
I can make a really quick comparison, I don't mean to interrupt. So while we were in DC, we also had a few veterans that were from Canada. So to put it in perspective, we have organizations like the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the American Legion, Disabled American Veterans, who advocate for the benefits of Americans who, and not even Americans, people who, because there's a lot of service members who haven't gotten their citizenship yet, so not American, but a lot of people who are willing to potentially sacrifice their life or give up a big portion of their life to this amazing country. And in comparison, the veterans in Canada, they get no benefits. There are no organizations like the American Legion, like the VFW up there. They came down here to join us while we were in our legislative conference in DC, speaking with our representatives and our senators, so they can see how it's done and potentially start their own type of veteran service organization in Canada to advocate for the rights of their own veterans. So I think it's really important that, you know, if you're a veteran, you don't necessarily have to be active. Not everybody's active, but, you know, numbers count when we're going into Congress. You know, when we can say we have 1.3 million members behind us, they listen. You know, and to be able to live in a country where we have organizations like ours advocate for veterans' rights, we're really fortunate here. And I think all these organizations do an amazing job. So again, just to put it in comparison, not every country, you know, treats their veterans the way we do. Not every country has veterans advocating for the rights of service members and veterans as well. So I think we do an amazing job.
Appreciate the
Ron, just to
perspective.
jump on that, one of those Canadians, I'm not going to mention him by name. I connected him with him on DC. He's watching this as we speak. He's messaging me.
There you go.
Hi, Canada. Hello.
Actually, he commented in the chat, Mike. So yeah, I said his name. But actually, off of Ron's point, perfect example: post 9/11, Iraq, Afghanistan, any other operations. Is we basically fought as an allied force. There was not just the U.S., but we had England, Germany, you know, a bunch of other countries, and one of the things one of the things too, I always tell people, I actually love the monument. It's Korean War Veterans Monument. It's in Battery Park, right by where you take the ferry to the Statue of Liberty. And it's a beautiful monument. And as you walk around it, there's a flag from every single different country with the silhouette of a soldier just above it. And underneath the flag is the number of service members that were killed during the Korean War. And one of them that actually threw me off, my wife is Colombian. I saw the Colombian flag. And I was like, oh, wow, this is interesting. And I did a little history where they lost a bunch of troops during the Korean War fighting on the side of the United Nations and the United States. So it's not just a U.S. thing, like Ron said. Like, we have allies all over the place. And I've known people in other countries where, you know, they say it and they're like, don't take offense, but I know it's the truth, is as veterans, yeah, you know, they said, you know, you're a little spoiled. You know, we do have a lot of things, but I think comparing it to like what Ron said, what they have in Canada, they got nothing compared to say what we have. But that was a great thing that they actually came during the testimony in front of the joint Senate and House, where they saw advocacy in action, and now they're taking it back home. They already took it back home, and that's how these things start.
So unfortunately, Nate had to go right now, and we're actually nearing the end of the show. And I just wanted to pose the panel one last question before we wrap up. And Lance, we're going to start with you. what would be your advice for anyone who is about to enlist?
Know what you want to do because you're going to be doing it for the next few years. Pick something that you're interested in, and if the military has a job, go for it.
Ron?
Oh, I'm gonna give you a Marine answer. If you're gonna go in, go in 100%, man. Don't half-ass it. You get in, you get out of it what you put into it. It's the military. You're gonna have some bad experiences, but take all the good, take all the camaraderie with you. And hopefully, you have more of that than you do bad experiences.
Ryan, last up.
Make that jump. That's what I did. It was scary, but I was like, you know what? Now's time to jump from that top board. And, sometimes, you have uncertainty, but sometimes the best things come out of uncertainty.
As we close out today's episode, I want to extend my deepest gratitude to all the service members who have joined us tonight. Your sacrifice and dedication inspire us every day. Thank you for your courage, for sharing your stories, and for reminding us what it truly means to serve. We honor you. We thank you for hopping on. Lance, Ron, Brian, Nate, and all the veterans that have watched tonight. Listen, from us to you, thank you. Thank you all.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good night. We'll see you next year.